Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Canfin. I am the Special Projects Coordinator at the Spiritual Life Center. And joining me today is the Reverend Kelly Jane Caesar, who was one of my internship classmates.
Yeah,
Thanks for taking time out, Kelly Jane.
it's great to be here. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you and catch up a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, right? That for 2 years we were just together every Wednesday, and now it's like, okay, bye.
I know, I miss everyone.
It's been, I didn't think I would, but I do.
I do. I'm like, all right, so what are we going to do? How are we going to stay connected? And yeah, luckily there's lots of stuff going on at the center. So you get to run into
Yeah,
people and yeah.
absolutely. So, for the people who may be watching this that don't know a whole lot about you, would you be willing to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I am the pastor at First Congregational Church in East Hartford, and I've been there for almost 9 years. Love it. It's a United Church of Christ denomination, and I knew I wanted to be a pastor when I was high school, and so went to Smith, went to Yale Divinity, and then did a couple like internships before starting in East Hartford, and really enjoyed it. And before the internship was feeling like, oh, there's something else, like there's something missing, and I wasn't sure what it was. Like, what was God calling me to? And I was invited to go to the open house for the internship. And my one of my yoga teachers said, "Hey,
Mhm.
you should check this out." And so I went and I felt this like yes energy. And this was before COVID, so we were like
Mhm.
in the room in Spiritual Life Center, and just the energy of the people and the welcome and the just hearing about how the internship works. It was just like yes. So I talked to my like professional development HR committee at the church, and they were like, "Go for it, have fun." And so they fully supported me doing it, and started in the fall. And I kind of thought like, oh, I wonder like, how, I'm a pastor, maybe I'll want to like also be a spiritual director. Maybe that's like a side thing, maybe it become a bigger thing in my life. Like, I wasn't really sure, but I was curious, and I figured at the very least I'd meet some cool people and learn some spiritual practices and learn how to listen better. And it was that and like so much more. So
Mm.
it was a few months in, and I realized I learned that I was pregnant with my first child, and I was ecstatic, like so excited, like, and that was like another yes moment of like yes. um, and then I know you have kids as well, so like everything just switched, and it became pretty clear. I mean, within a couple months that I didn't have the space in my life to like devote to spiritual direction in terms of being a director. That like mother of small child and full-time pastor was more than enough. Um, but I stayed in the internship because every week I just kept learning, new things, and um, feeling like spiritually fed. It was like a mini worship every
Mm.
every week, and then I'd learn and build these connections with an amazing group of people, and um, really just had such a powerful experience. And now I've just rambled. You asked me about myself, and I gave you
Oh,
like the whole story. So sorry.
no, that's great because I'm glad you shared about the internship because I feel like we don't necessarily talk about it a whole lot. Um, and really, since it's fresh for you, maybe that's something we can dig into.
Yeah.
Um, I know my experience with the internship was it was probably similar, a little similar to yours, except for I like to say no before I say yes. So my spiritual director was like, hey, you should do this. I was like, no. And then said yes. I remember just looking at the information saying, yeah, I think I got to say yes. There was no reason that I could think of except for, like you kind of said, there was a certain energy or a pull. And I was just like, okay, here we go.
Here
Let's
we go.
do it.
Yep.
So I know for me, there were a lot of surprises that came up in the internship, things that I didn't expect and sometimes didn't even realize until the end of a semester. Like in the moment, I didn't feel it. But then at the end of each semester, I was just like, whoa, what happened? Do you have any of those, or maybe one that
Yeah.
you would feel that you could share aside from finding out you were pregnant?
Yeah, that was a big surprise. Well, that
Yeah.
wasn't. We were trying, but
Yeah.
um, I guess like I'm not sure if it was a surprise. I knew there'd be like group work. You know, we'd have a peer group that we'd do like kind of peer supervision with, and there might be like other small groups or during the program. And honestly, I was a little like wary of this like peer supervision group because I was like, I don't know, I've been part of clergy groups before, and like sometimes they're awesome, and honestly, most of the time I've been in them, they haven't been awesome and have been really annoying. So I thought like, okay, so here's this group supervision. Like, is this just going to be an annoying piece that I have to like put up with, or like, what's it going to be like? And I found that it was, and I'm not just saying this because you were in it in my peer group, but
That's true.
that's true. But it was like, it was so powerful. And I did get a lot from hearing what other people were, doing and their questions they were having. And then when it was my turn to kind of be the focus person, having the feedback from multiple different people was so eye-opening because something that like you saw was different from what someone else saw, and then they'd pick up on each other and it would kind of build in a way that you don't get one-on-one.
Mhm.
So I found the group to be really insightful, and I give a lot of credit to the way the group is set up and the energy of the team and the leadership that run the internship. They set the tone, so
Mhm.
it's the tone is to like build each other up, to listen, um, to offer support, to offer you know challenging questions, but in a loving, compassionate way. And so the energy of those small groups was, lifting you up,
Mhm.
uh, which is very different from like some of the clergy groups I've been a part of, which somehow down spiral into this like negative, like, oh, this is like, uh, complaining. But the peer groups and the internship were just so eye opening and really, why might that be? And where's God in that? And um, how's your body feeling as you process? And just really a different experience for me. And that was a wonderful surprise and really grateful for it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Uh, I may be biased because I didn't experience the other peer groups. So yes, I am very biased in this, but I thought ours was awesome.
It was.
I will say I appreciated the whole internship, but I think you probably nailed what I was feeling too, that the nights I looked forward to the most, no matter what part I was playing in it, was the peer supervision nights. Those were the ones that I was like, I can't miss this one. I can't. I gotta, even though I'm not feeling great, I gotta be there. Um, yeah, that was powerful. I've never been a part of a clergy group, but I have been part of other groups that are, supposed to be for support, and it's just not. And this was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's great. So little change, little change in topic, but this is a thing that may be just my own personal curiosity because I still am trying to figure out how I would describe spiritual direction to people without taking 20 minutes of their time. How would you describe what spiritual direction is?
Say spiritual direction is helping another person see the holy in their life, or whatever they want to use, or whatever word they want to use. But where do you find the divine, the universe, the spirit that's greater than you? Uh, how do you connect to that, and helping people to build that connection?
Hmm. That may be the most succinct one that anyone has shared with me. Yeah. And I might have to steal part of that. I think what we do is it's very nuanced and sometimes hard to explain. So I that question I may ask people just because I want to know. But I think it's helpful too to see how
Yeah,
different people kind of have a similar answer, but it's a little different every time.
yeah.
Um, so part of the internship was that you had to be in spiritual direction to participate. So are you currently in spiritual direction as a directee or seeker?
Actually, I just kind of concluded because I'm looking for. I actually want to start like a spiritual direction, a group setting.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, I think that might be more what I'm looking for right now,
Okay.
as opposed to the one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting learning about, you could have a one-on-one spiritual
Hmm.
director. You could also maybe do a group spiritual direction. Um, and I want to move into a group setting. And so I have although I do kind of have a spiritual director on standby. So I wouldn't say like, it's cut off forever, but it's,
Yeah.
we stopped our regular, and I'm working on the small. I also have a regular therapist I've seen for years who has a
Hmm.
spiritual background. So
Oh,
that
nice.
is, sometimes I feel like she's a spiritual director, even though she's technically a therapist.
Hmm.
And then I just started with the supervisor I had during the internship. We decided to continue. And so, and it kind of interesting because through the process of the internship, I'm not going to become a spiritual director. I decided that wasn't the path for me. But so the supervision turned into kind of pastoral supervision with a
Mm.
spiritual direction lens. And it was so helpful, like totally transformed my ministry, um, and helped me, like really helped me with the people that maybe I struggled with, or situations that I felt lost in. My supervisor helped me find some clarity and helped me to really ground in God. So I was ministering from a more connected place. And we decided to continue on a kind of doing this. I'm not even sure what to call it. We're like pastoral supervision with, but whatever it is, it's great. Um, and so we're going to do that like every other month. And um, yeah, so those are kind of the thing. And then I would say my fourth, yeah, got so many different things, would be, I would call her my Anam Cara. Sometimes they talk about a spiritual director as a Anam Cara, a spiritual friend. Um, and my Anam Cara is my friend that I met in high school. And every week we call each other up. And we've done this for almost 20 years now, actually. So every week we call each other up, usually Monday night. And for roughly an hour, I talk, and then roughly an hour she talks. The other person listens, and it's quite honestly, it's spiritual direction. We
Mm.
just mutually do it back and forth, and it's we listen to the other person, offer affirmation, offer questions, kind kind of repeat back what we hear, and help each other see where God is in it. And that's been going on, like I said, for a couple decades now. So we have a long history of, oh, you don't sound like yourself,
Hmm.
or I've heard you when it's a yes and it's not like the other yeses, um, things like that. And so it's been really powerful. Continue with her. So
That is so, like, it's just beautiful and rare.
yeah,
Um, I have I have something similar. I have a friend that it's been about 2 decades, and we've kind of walked together, and our paths have just they're different, but for some reason our spiritual growth and evolution has almost always been parallel.
wow,
And we do something similar where we maybe not it's not probably as frequent as yours, but we will do the same thing where one of us talks for a while and the other listens and asks questions, and then we switch.
yeah,
And it's amazing.
it really is. It's just such a gift. And I met her at church camp, and so we kind of grew up in the same denomination, different states, and then um, she actually became a Buddhist chaplain.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, so a Buddhist chaplain, and now she kind of uses that skill set in um, like sexual assault
Mm,
um, situations on a college campus, and she's doing that. And then I became a pastor, so kind of different,
hmm.
like on the surface very different, but yet spiritually like kindred hearts. And um, yeah,
Whew, that's beautiful. um and it kind of speaks to the power of learning how to listen, which, unless I miss my guess, which I hope I don't, because it's what I'm working on here. um that's probably the biggest part of being a spiritual director, is learning how to truly listen.
yeah,
So, I know you said you're looking for a group now as
yeah,
opposed to doing one-on-one, which I kind of chuckled at, because for me, um, as an operating spiritual director, I need to have a supervisor, and I have a supervisor on backup, but I'm looking for a group too, because I like that dynamic much better. Um, but I'm wondering if you would feel comfortable sharing a little bit, actually, I should say a little bit more about how participating in spiritual direction has impacted you, maybe as a minister or even just as a human being.
yeah. It's helped me to grow in compassion.
Mm,
Um, especially when there's challenging situations or something kind of ruffles my feathers. Um, when I bring that into spiritual direction, being able to like look at that with a loving lens. And they say spiritual directions that long loving look, and so to look at those places in my life where there's friction or where it's difficult, looking at it with love like kind of softens it, and um, helps me to like appreciate where maybe someone else is coming from. And so my relationships with different people, whether it's like in my personal life or professional life, are just surrounded with love, like in spiritual direction. And I carry that out. And so I think it's helped me to love in a deeper way, in a more powerful way.
mm,
And yeah, to be more present to what my needs are, and not in a selfish way, but in an
mhm.
acknowledgement, and then more present to the other person that I might be interacting with, and more present to what God has to say and where the holy is in the situation, and kind of keep calling me back to God, to the divine, and grounding me in the spirit. And I find when I'm grounded in the spirit, anything after that, and not necessarily easy, but it feels like the right thing. Like it's
Mhm.
yes, it's a yes. Yes,
Yeah.
here we go. um, yeah.
I know when I sit with my director, there are times where I will just go off on something, and it's exactly like what you just said. I'll share this big long thing that happened, or and more often than not, my spiritual director will just, the question she always asks first is, "Where's God in this for you?" And more often than not, that's almost like a huge slap in the face, and not a bad one, but like a wake up
Mm.
slap in the face. And I look at the situation and I'm like, wow, I totally forgot about that. Oops. um, and I would like to just kind of reiterate what you said, that one of the things that's huge for me that's come out of it is I've always wanted to be the person that could love other people that are maybe completely disagree with me on most things, but have always found it so hard to do.
Mm.
And kind of came to the realization this year that, oh my goodness, I care about these people who completely disagree with me. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, maybe it's spiritual direction. I really think that has had a huge impact. And I am so thankful for that, even though it's really hard.
Yeah. I just have to echo that. Like, it's always been a goal of mine, similar to, like, you know, love the people I might disagree with, and spiritual direction and the internship, and really the like energy of the spiritual life center. There's so much deep compassion there,
Mhm.
and kind of anytime I tap into whatever's going on, whether it's a program or the internship or a certain training, it's like connecting into that deep compassion.
Mm.
And I feel like I like charged up. I'm like, ooh, charging, like compassion level up. And then I am out in the world and I'm like, oh right, that's the person I want to be.
Mhm.
And I can like
Yeah.
draw on that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It is. It's really neat, and I feel um, a little privileged that I am getting to have all these conversations with all these people in our community at Spiritual Life Center. Um, and it's really neat because I get to hear all these different perspectives. But what you just shared is kind of like this thread that just kind of
Mm,
weaves through all of it. Um, and it's really cool to see that there is a community of people out there that you and I happen to be a part of in one way or another, that is working towards being compassionate and being empathetic with other people, even the ones that we don't want to be towards.
yeah.
Um, so normally I like to end these conversations by asking, what's your favorite part about being a spiritual director? And I know that you are not currently, you have not made the choice to be a director at this time. So I think my question will be, what is your favorite part of participating in spiritual direction?
Hmm. Can I answer a different question?
Yeah, go for it, please.
I 'Cause I want to answer the question of what's my favorite part of bringing a spiritual direction lens to pastoral ministry.
That's a much better question. Go for it.
because that's what I got out of the internship.
Yeah.
I learned some of the spiritual direction tools and have brought them into the ministry. And the obvious ways are in a pastoral care situation, listening to someone who has shared the same story with me,
Hmm.
over and over again. And I think seminary did a pretty good job of preparing me to like start in a church, to have those first conversations with people, like they get
Hmm.
to know you, the like surface, first story go around. But after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, well, I kind of already know the basics. Like, been with these people for a hot second. And what spiritual direction has done is given me tools to go deeper with people, um, and to help them go deeper. And so I've seen over the last 2 years, like just people opening up and growing spiritually in like beautiful ways that are just like
Hmm.
totally blowing me away. And I feel like I have some of the tools to actually help facilitate that, and be present, and invite people to open up to the holy in a way that I just didn't have before. And a lot of it's the listening, some of it's like the questions, some of it is, setting the space and the energy, and like, and then, in the internship, we get lots of different special classes on different things. And so sometimes a certain scenario might come up, and just having a spiritual framework for that situation helps me to be present, as the person's pastor, and really be thinking about their spiritual life. And that's just like pastoral care sort of thing. I've
Hmm.
also found that like the internship and spiritual direction, that lens, when it comes to like committee meetings, you approach a committee meeting as like, if you like pretend you're a spiritual director in a committee meeting, right?
Yeah.
Totally transforms it. Like,
Hmm.
totally. It's like the energy is just so different.
Yeah.
And it grounds me, but then it like ripple effects, it
Hmm.
grounds that committee. And we maybe make decisions in a different way, we listen to each other in a different way. um and I notice, the congregation picks up on that. Like if I come in with a different mindset, they're like, oh yeah, we're, huh. um one of our teachers would say spiritual direction is directing people to look at God, look
Hmm.
at the holy. So that's what I, do a lot in the committee meetings, and also in the one-on-one. And my preaching has been more grounded, the preparation, uh, and then also the like every Wednesday, we get learn something in, the spiritual world. And so I'll be honest, a lot of those readings ended up like making it into sermons one way or the other. So, a lot of those prayers, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I borrowed heavily, and the congregation appreciated that. And um, yeah, and then of course, a big part of being a pastor is having a sense of vision for the congregation, like a long term, where are
Hmm.
we going? And how you do that without being grounded in God is um, kind of silly. So the internship and the spiritual direction, and like thinking pastor at like spiritual director as pastor, like just noticing the connections
Hmm.
makes the pastoral ministry like that much more grounded in the holy, and helps direct people to God, which I I think that's a big part of what the church does, or is supposed to do, is connect people to God. So yeah, all that we learned in the internship about spiritual direction and being able to apply it in my pastoral setting has been just totally transformative. And I loved ministry before. And I loved ministry before, but then there were these like a couple things that, you know, were annoying, but whatever.
Hmm.
And through the internship, I have a different perspective, a different approach, and there's just like a bubbling over of joy. And like, wow. Just, and the transformation is just incredible. I'm like, wow, this is so. Maybe I didn't technically become a spiritual director, but I feel like the internship totally transformed my ministry, and I might be a mini spiritual director with a pastor hat, or pastor with a spiritual director hat, or I'm not sure which way to put it, but yeah, it's great.
It is like, um, and without going into detail, which I promise not to do, it's something that we talked about in our peer group about
Yes.
you don't have to be one thing or the other.
Mm.
You can be many things together.
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
and do it your way, which, I'm hearing you describe when you talk about your pastoral spiritual supervisor
Yeah.
relationship. You are doing your thing,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. So thank you for asking your own question, because that was way better. 100% way better. um, Also, thank you for taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.